Mhm.
Hello, folks. Welcome. Another edition of Boxing Chick, 86 Boxing, the Boxing Haven, aka Boz, holding it down from across the pond. How's it going, Boz?
Yeah, it's going pretty well. We got some cooler weather now, so that's why they are. The furnaces is working on, really 100%. So
Yeah,
that's why I'm dressed like this.
putting in overtime. I see. Well, cool,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, we're cooling here as always, and it's pretty warm in here. But I had to represent 86 Boxing hoodie, of course. But first and foremost, shout out to MLK. This is Martin Luther King's Day here in the United States of America. He was instrumental in the civil rights movement and a bunch of things that got conditions a bit better in place for people of color here in the United States, or at least movements that surrounded such. So, major shout out to MLK, and this is his day. So, we're gonna keep it jumping, talk a little boxing for MLK, and we had a pretty decent weekend of some stuff. Shout out to the Real Ranger Danger. I appreciate you being in here. Ranger Danger. For everyone listening, go give the Real Ranger Danger a follow. If you're into hunting, you're into fishing, you're into the outdoor life, you're into just life in general, the Real Ranger Danger is definitely worth to subscribe. So please, please do. For those listening and those who may be returning to check out the replay. So again, we're here to talk some boxing. So this weekend, kind of light in terms of the huge names or big names even, but we did have a sort of marquee heavyweight contest as it relates to two heavyweights who seemingly were going to put themselves in the trajectory for something big in the future as it relates to the top guys, those top 10 guys that are in and around heavyweight. And that was a fight between Stephen Shaw and Efe Ajagba, two heavyweights who have some promise. Ajagba being the Nigerian with power, who is one of the individuals who is viewed as one of the next big heavyweights in the sport because of the fact that he had this type of raw power that could get anyone out of there, or at least seemingly such. He has lost to Frank Sanchez, and he was outboxed in that contest, but this was his bounce back fight since then. I believe he might have had a bit of surgery or something, shoulder or something of that nature, in the aftermath of that fight. So now we
Yeah.
have him back in the mix. He took on Stephen Shaw, who was an undefeated fighter at that particular time, and he was pretty solid all around. And this was a good even matchup for two guys who have a lot of hope for the division. And it ended up being a 10-round unanimous decision win for Efe Ajagba, who's working with K Karoma in that camp. And he seemed to have improved a bit as far as his overall boxing, the technical side of things, because that was one thing that let him down against Frank Sanchez. He just wasn't there technically on the level of Frank Sanchez, who, of course, is a Cuban boxer, and we know that they are always very skilled. So I know you were able to catch it, Boz. What were your thoughts on Jagba versus Shaw and what that means for the heavyweight division?
Yeah, I was able to catch it, fortunately. Yeah, it was I would say a decent fight. I mean, I've seen the headlines that it was a boring fight. Well, I've seen more boring fights before. It
Yeah.
wasn't very exciting, that's true. There weren't any major things happening, like some guy, having the other guy in trouble, scoring a knockdown. But it was still there were quite a few exchanges, and I thought both guys were pretty good. I mean, did well. Stefan Shaw was, you know, just doing well, but Jagba was this time he used the jab,
Oh, yeah.
rather effectively, and that's what kind of won him the fight. He was also the one who was actually a little bit more, on the front foot, and but also Shaw did some good counter punching and boxing.
Mhm.
So it was pretty close. I haven't scored it yet, but maybe I will. But anyway, it looked kind of maybe like a 96, 94, like for a
Yeah.
jug, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe actually the judges had it that way, or at least one of the judges. Oh, matter of fact, no, it was all of the judges because it ended up being a
Right.
unanimous
That's good.
decision, 96, 94. So yeah, I think you're spot on in kind of what you thought from just the early view. Yeah, I did hear people mentioning it was a boring fight. I would say it was more so a slow fight. This was fought on
Yeah.
the technical side at a slower pace, and I think that's because Ajagba, he really needed to make this change to start relying on the jab because he
Yeah.
was going to be viewed as one of these guys who is a power guy, who is a puncher. But that
Yeah.
being
That's
said,
why.
that may
I,
not be who he is actually.
I think that's why many people were disappointed. That's why they say it was boring because with a puncher like a jugger, they expected at least a knockdown or something to happen.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's very good because a jungler just cannot expect to go in there and knock out every guy just like that. He has
yeah,
to work the jab first and take his time also.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and that
yeah,
bodes well for him, especially if you're talking about getting to that elite level, because it's not going to
mm,
be easy to knock those guys out. And I think his puncher
oh
status kind of came about because he was fighting a lot of low level guys who couldn't hang with him and who couldn't take that power. But I
yeah,
think Frank Sanchez showed us that hey, his punching, he probably has power. He probably can punch a good bit, but at that elite level, once you get up there, then
mm,
it's going to shrink a bit drastically unless you're able to set up your punches in a way to actually maximize them, which I think is what they're trying to work with him on now.
yeah, exactly. I mean, you have plenty of fighters who like early on were viewed as knockout artists, but then when they stepped up, they weren't that anymore.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you can maybe one good example is that guy Tavoris Cloud. He was
oh
early
yeah,
on really like
Mhm.
looked like a destroyer, type. But then when he
Yep,
won the world title, then he stopped knocking out guys. He didn't.
yep.
Well, he only occasionally did score a stoppage. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But Bernard Hopkins beat him.
yeah,
Like,
that's right. I
yep.
also wanted to
I
mention
think
him.
Bernard was the first to defeat him, and
Yeah, and he
so
also like early on was knocking out a lot of guys, and in the
yeah,
first round and stuff. But
yeah,
that's because they were, not that good.
yeah,
Simply.
so I think this was good. I think that this is something I was thinking about the other day. I think that the Ajagba loss to Frank Sanchez probably did him more good than bad in the sense that had he just continued to pick up these knockout wins over guys that are, as mentioned, who are on that low level, some of these like D and C class fighters, lower C class fighters. Had he continued to do that in that Frank Sanchez fight, say it didn't happen, he would have
Yeah,
built up a record with a bunch of knockouts, and then he would have gotten in. He'd have somehow got in there. They'd have pushed him towards a title shot, and he would have gotten in there, I believe, and he wouldn't have looked like the fighter that they
no,
probably pumped him up or thought that he would be. And I think that with this loss to Sanchez, with this fight coming in, this fight loss coming when it did, I think that's going to prove better for him as he moves forward. And I think he feels humbled by it himself because they even asked him, based on his performance with Shaw, how he thinks he looks against the other competition, like the title holders or whatever. Jim Gray, I believe it was, that asked him
yeah,
this question, or someone did, and I think he acknowledged to himself that hey, I still have some work to do, and
hmm.
basically he's not ready for those top 10 guys at this point. He's not.
No, and he just needed something like that to happen with against Frank Sanchez. That loss
Mhm.
kind of made him see that I'm still far away from elite level, and I need to get some serious work done on myself before I can even think about taking on the best guys out there. Yeah, and that's something that really, in the long run, is a good loss for for a
Yeah,
fighter.
yeah, and excuse me, I recently did a video on the ring champions. It was a video. Yeah, you all can check it out. John L. Sullivan versus the current ring champ, which is Usyk, in top 8 heavyweights. I was gonna do the top 10 at first, but I kind of just knocked it down to top 8 to keep on theme with the 8-6 for 86 boxing. Dun-dun-dun, drum roll. But anyway,
Mhm.
on that list, as far as right now with the ring, number 9 was Frank Sanchez, and number 10 was Philip Hergovich. And if you
Right.
think about that, right now, I don't know or I don't believe that Filip Hrgovic or Frank Sanchez beats like Usyk, Wilder, or Tyson Fury at this moment. Maybe not
Mm.
even Joe Joyce. So that gives you perspective on what you'll have to
Probably
go
not.
through to get to that level. You know?
Yeah, of course, Wilder still got that huge right hand, but there are some question marks around him now,
Yeah,
And there have been actually accusations that Hellenius kind of just, threw that fight, that he didn't really fight because they are sparring partners. I don't really believe in that, but,
yeah, yeah. I don't know. If he
there are,
beat Hellenius before, then it's not inconceivable that
I
Wilder's
mean,
going to knock him out.
yeah. What's certain is Hellenius was not anywhere in his anymore in his prime, even though he had been
Yeah.
doing well before that. But
He beat the Polish guy, uh
yeah, Kovnatski.
Banaski. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but he's a big guy who is not that hard to hit. With
Right.
something big, and that's what happened.
I
He
think he
got
was
hit.
knocked out by Gerald Washington, was it?
Yeah, that's right. And he
So
was actually winning the fight. Some people, I haven't seen it, but some people have told me
yeah,
that he was ahead, but then he just got caught and
yeah.
bang. That
So yeah,
was it.
surely if Washington could knock him out, then Wilder can
Yeah.
knock him out.
Yeah, I was like, what? He got knocked out by Gerald Washington. That was really disappointing to see.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Wilder still has that punch, but as for him versus Ajagba, I would really like to see that fight. I mean, maybe not now, of course, but
yeah,
somewhere down the line, maybe next year or yeah, something like that.
yeah.
If Wilder fights so long,
Yeah, that would be an interesting one for sure. That would be an interesting one. I think
Mm.
Wilder, his name has been tied up there with Andy Ruiz as of late. I haven't seen anything
Oh yeah, right.
official, but that would be a great fight right there, just in
Yeah,
terms of the style clash between the two.
but physically, what a mismatch!
Yeah,
That is
physically a
ridiculous.
mismatch that adds intrigue to it, as well as
Yeah,
stylistically. You mix those
yeah.
together, it's definitely an
Even though
interesting matchup.
even though Joshua Reed was also a mismatch, the first fight also
Yeah,
it was seen as a great mismatch, but look
you
what
know,
happened.
when Joshua knocked Eddie Ruiz down, I was like, man, that is a hard shot. I think he might be done here because he took
Yeah,
a hell of a shot from Joshua, and the fact that he was
that
able to get
was.
up from that and do what he did, hey, I got to commend him. He does have a pretty, seemingly a pretty decent chin,
Oh
given what
yeah,
he was able to go through.
yeah. I mean, he's Mexican after all.
Yeah, that is true. Not to mention he's been in there with Joseph Parker, for instance, who we know
Yeah,
he can put his stuff together when he can. But yeah, he's
but
an interesting guy.
yeah, it was a real like Drago versus Rocky moment. The giant knocks him down. He just gets up and bang, he
Yeah,
puts him down.
yeah, yeah, very much interesting. But yeah, I think that the heavyweight division at this moment is pretty interesting still. We do have Usyk Fury that has been mentioned that should be coming up
Yeah.
at some point. I think right now it's not official in the sense of an actual contract, but there's been a lot of discussion and talk behind it.
Of course, I'm not sure if Fury will go through it, but I hope, of course, it will happen. And if not that, then maybe Fury versus Joshua. I don't know if that should be because that was supposed to happen, of course.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it was, and that would
so
still be pretty interesting. I know that I saw the boxing librarian. He posted shout out to boxing librarian. It seems that the venue is, I
hmm,
guess, something that is tied to the finishing touches of this Usyk versus Fury fight. And thinking of venues, I'm wondering if it's going to be in like Saudi Arabia or something like that. If they're looking to do one of those
Yeah,
places where they can get the
probably.
most money, you know what I'm saying?
Probably, yeah. I mean, it's yeah,
That's kind of been the trend for getting the big money fights, at
yeah.
least.
For Eddie Hearn,
Yeah,
anyway.
for Earn, yeah, certainly, yeah, that's been the trend, and they've been shelling out a lot of money for those
Yeah,
type of
he's
fights.
yeah, he's for sure. I mean, of course, it has now gone to his head. You might say recently, he's been starting to act like I mean, this business with Conor Ben and Chris Eubank Jr. That was really a dirty
Oh
business.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's shows
As
you.
I said, see, sometimes it looks like he doesn't care if a fighter can be seriously injured as long as it makes a lot of money that fight.
Yeah,
And
it
that's
shows you
really
that
bad.
underbelly of boxing for sure, and
Oh
how
yeah,
things are done. There's still that's the whole process in itself is clouded with a bunch of unknowns. Who really knows what's going on behind the scenes, especially
yeah,
factoring in all these different entities that may have a hand in the pot or whatever, or a hand in the bucket, or a piece of the pie or something of that nature. Yeah, boxing is still one of those that definitely has a lot of clouded judgment and understanding that probably won't come to light. But
yeah.
it's a sport that we love, and right now it's not regulated by a single entity. So I
No,
guess you can expect that type of stuff. You know,
yeah, of course, yeah.
and
That's
speaking of that,
scary.
yeah, speaking of
Mm.
that, I was going to mention that I had saw some one on YouTube, and then I even looked it up to see, and I saw that there were some articles relating to it, saying that the Zone had lost like $2 billion in 2021, and I guess 6 billion over the course of their launch or something like that.
Wow.
But I don't know the overall validity of it, but they spent a lot of money, of course, signing some of the fighters early on, the big contract for Triple G, Canelo,
Yeah,
and Joshua, and
yeah.
then, excuse me, also they apparently bought the rights
Yeah,
to the Italian soccer league or whatever. So
yeah,
I think
right.
that is going to put a lot of pressure. If this is true, then I think that will put a lot of emphasis and pressure on some big fights being made in a similar
Yeah,
capacity to when they had issues with Canelo or somehow during that little process of negotiating fights and what they wanted to see to generate the most funding. So we'll see what
mm.
happens here with the zone and how things hold up moving forward as far as these big money contracts being shelled out for some of these fighters.
Yeah, it's just they're trying to, yeah, and then they're playing on too many horses maybe at the same time. I don't,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, certainly, because some of those deals just haven't quite worked out. Like they had brought in Daniel Jacobs, that didn't quite work out. Triple G, it kind of didn't work out as far as what was expected. The Canelo fight came a little too long in the tooth, and then Anthony
yeah.
Joshua, the apple cart was upset in a bit, but in a sense, but those were some pretty decent fights. But
I
just
mean,
thinking about the potential of bringing in Fury to face Joshua, Wilder to face Joshua, it could have been major.
yeah, I hate when they make these trilogies because even though one of the fighters is not in his prime anymore, it's kind of really lame.
Yeah,
Just trying to squeeze out some money. I mean, to
yeah,
milk that
certainly.
guy, like Triple G, that's who I'm talking about, of course.
Yeah, certainly.
And then what do we get? We get a fight that's really not that great to watch. And
Yeah, yeah, it was the most definitive win for Canelo at that particular juncture. It had also left questions as to what the future holds for Triple G as well, and
yeah,
which I guess is
yeah.
anybody's business at this point.
Hmm. I don't think he has long, of course, not so long left in the sport, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows? So yeah, going back to the card yesterday or on Saturday, actually, the Efe Ajagba top rank card, which is in Verona, New York, which is a nice spot. I've been there a couple of times. And
Yeah.
the co-feature, it was actually Adam Lopez taking on Abraham Supernova. Of course, Lopez, he's a guy who's been in there and he's done well at times. Tried to upset the apple cart a few times. He dropped
Mm.
Oscar Valdez when they fought.
Yeah, that was a surprise because he doesn't have many KOs, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. So
I
he's
don't
a
know
pretty
how
solid
he.
guy all around. And then, of course, Abraham Supernova, who has his own mascot, he
Yeah.
actually lost recently to BC Ramirez, and he bounced back from that to come into this fight and take on Adam Lopez. So it was a return bout for, or it was his bounce back fight from that loss, and it
No.
turned out to be the probably the best fight on the card because you had a mix of good action, you had
Yeah.
some knockdown, you had a knockdown, but a lot of bombs being
Quite a
thrown.
knockdown.
Yeah. A lot of bombs being thrown. The Abraham
Yeah.
Nova shots, or a combination of shots that sent Adam Lopez to the floor was a thing of beauty. He landed flush, caught him on the chin, and sent him down. And Lopez showed some grit and heart because he was able to get up from it and then continued to make it a battle throughout the fight to finish up over the course of the 10 rounds. But in the end, it was Abraham Supernova getting a victory via unanimous decision, and now he kind of has shown that he's going to let this loss kind of push it to the back and continue to press forward with his career.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty big win for Noah. The guy with the dope beard and hair.
Yeah,
He literally likes it. I think he is really trying to look like, you know, somebody out of, I don't know, a comic book because has such a name, Nova, you know,
oh
really
yeah, he does.
like inspired by science fiction or something,
Yeah,
you know. So, but yeah, he was really. I mean that knockdown when I saw it, I was like, holy shit, he really hit that guy hard. But
yeah,
Lopez has quite a chin as well, you know. So yeah, I mean,
yeah,
he was able to bounce back and really, you know, credit to him for that. And then the rest of the fight, I mean, I saw the highlights, but there was a lot of, you know, yeah, trading of bombs and stuff.
yeah. They had some pretty solid exchanges throughout
Yeah,
that mix. So that was at a what was this weight? So super featherweight, 130 pounds, and 130 pounds is. I think we were mentioning this in the last call or podcast episode that it's pretty much
yeah,
wide open in some sense at this point because you have Shakir Steven who has left and moved to 135. That freed up some belts.
mhm,
You have now like it's a mix between Oscar Valdez, Emmanuel Navarrete, uh, Nova. He can throw himself in the mix, and
yeah,
because I think he moved up because Roberto Ramirez, if I'm not mistaken, he's fighting at 126. So I'm
all
thinking
right.
Nova went up in this particular fight.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was a featherweight
Yeah,
before.
so and hey, maybe this move is good for him. He looked good in this particular fight. So that 130
Yeah,
division is pretty much open. You have a chance to jump in there and probably work your way into a title shot there. And there's a real chance you can, if he continues to progress, there's a real chance he can do some things.
you know, I was gonna say he is also from the Dominican Republic, right?
Or
No,
I thought Puerto Rico.
or I think Lopez is from Puerto Rico. Well, anyway, I think he kind of reminds me of Argenis Mendez. You know, the way he fights another Dominican
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
former IBF, I think, super featherweight champion, because he was like he was not a really hard puncher, but he could hit and he was very aggressive. You know, like
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
solid guy all
mm,
around. Yeah,
yeah.
Nova, Supernova. Yeah, he's from Puerto Rico, actually, Carolina.
Correct. Puerto Rico. I think also Lopez is from, isn't he?
Yeah, he
Puerto
may
Rico.
very well be.
Blue Nose. I don't know why he has that nickname, Blue Nose. That's pretty.
Blue nose.
Is it that because he got a lot of beating on his nose, a lot of shots?
Yeah, you never know some of these cats with their nicknames. But Lopez, he's from. Let me see here. But I do what you're saying. Or in mention of Mendez, who's a solid guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
Lopez, he's Californian. He might be of
Mexican.
Mexican descent.
Yeah,
Somewhere down the
probably
line.
actually. Yeah, probably. You know that I think would. Yeah,
But yeah, but yeah, Nova. I thought he looked pretty good, and yeah, if he continues to work it, we'll see what happens. As mentioned, because hey, 130 is open. Of course, we know what 135
yeah,
has to offer. As you continue to go up, there's a lot of competition in the mix there, so options for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. It's only Valdez that's really a big name there at the moment, and who knows how long he will stay. Also, he might move up also
Yeah,
eventually.
right,
Yeah,
right, right. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Now, another fight that was on there was another heavyweight fight. It was actually the co-main event. I misspoke. The last one was on the I think ESPN Plus broadcast, the feature about there. But on
mm,
the when they moved to ESPN, the co-main event was actually Guido Vianello taking
yeah,
on Jonathan Rice in a 10-round heavyweight contest. Now, of course, we spoke about this a bit. Vianello, he's Italian. He seemingly is someone Top Rank was looking to push to kind of infiltrate that market more. Of course, you can get a top-notch Italian heavyweight that should bring about some fanfare. And
yeah. It's been a while
yeah,
since
yeah,
there was one. Of course.
yeah, yeah. And there are some guys that do fight uh, in those areas or countries just in general who can bring about fanfare in those markets, and that's of course a market to have. So he was undefeated 10-0-1. He had a draw against Kingsley eBay on ESPN back in 2021, I believe it was,
Yeah, that's the
or
one we
2020.
talked
Yeah,
about.
yeah, and I felt that he lost that fight. But that being said, from an official standpoint, it was a draw. So this was
Yeah,
his next chance right here against Jonathan Rice, a guy who's a veteran who's been in with a number of different styles, who has shown that he can pull off upset wins if needed. He was the first to defeat the American heavyweight Coffee twice, and this was a fight for him and an opportunity for him. He had been out for like a year or something of that nature, so this was his chance, and it was a slow fight in whole, but Jonathan Rice made the most of his punches. He wasn't throwing very much throughout in terms of the rounds that it ended up going, but when he did throw, you could tell that if he landed, it did have a bit of steam on it, and it did have a good bit of accuracy. So it went 7 rounds,
yeah.
and this is where the TKO actually happened. I don't know if you're able to catch it all because there was a little drama surrounding it as well.
No, no, I wasn't, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah,
Uh,
so there was a
yeah,
little drama because Rice at one point, this is prior to the fight being stopped. Rice landed a punch. It was a sharp right hand, a straight right. It was almost like a coming off of a pull counter or something of that nature, and he landed it flush on Vianello's left eye, and you could immediately see a cut start to open up. And ultimately, it went on for a little bit more, and it was essentially stopped by the doctor because of the fact that this cut it just had started to widen. And it was right above the eyelids. Now, in the immediate aftermath, Benji Estevez, the referee of the contest, said that it was a head clash and that it was going to go to the points. Now, had it went to points, Vianello was likely going to win just because Jonathan Rice didn't really have much of a high output. But
right.
they ended up. New York doesn't have replay. This was in Verona. This was on uh, what they called Indian territory, so it's native land uh, in their jurisdiction. So the person in charge, the supervisor in charge, made the decision. Hey, let's take a look at this ESPN replay. So Benji Estevez, the referee, he went down to where Joe Tessitore and the crew were sitting, and he looked at the screen there, and he saw that it was landed. There was a punch that landed. It actually cut the fight, caused the cut, and they ended up going to change it and reverse it. But there was a lot more drama to it prior to that in terms of getting to that point because Estevez was just saying, "Hey, it was a head clash or whatever." Then you had the top ranked guy speaking to him like, "Hey, it wasn't a head clash. He landed a punch. And this is what's showing on the replays around here." And you had some others who were mentioning it as well. And Estevez, he never say that it was a headbutt. Bless you. But he never did. It was an actually head. Oh, bless you again.
There's a lot.
But he never did say it was a headbutt or a head clash. So he was just calling it a head clash without even ever providing warning or anything of that nature. So it ultimately got the ship was righted and Vianello lost via round TKO. So
Wow.
Jonathan Rice was victorious and he continues to move on. And for Vianello, he has to continue to work on his game.
Yeah, it's obvious he needs that. He simply just doesn't look like he's a complete fighter.
Yeah.
He will not do well. I mean, I think Hrgovic would have probably smashed him. Simple as that.
Certainly. Certainly, I do think Hrgovic would have definitely smashed him. Shout out to my mom. Good evening, son and Boz. Keep up the good work. Have a blessed day. Thank you. You as well. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Salute, salutations here on MLK.
Salute.
Yeah, we're speaking of bless you. Yeah, we're speaking of the Jonathan Rice Guido Vianello fight. But as mentioned, Guido. He has a lot that he still needs to work on overall. This is his first official loss on his record. And of course, that doesn't mean it's the end of the world if this is something that he's going to continue to subscribe to as far as pushing towards being one of the best in the heavyweight division. Then he can bounce back from this. He can maybe learn some things from this. But I think he just has to kind of just work on his overall boxing and pacing himself in the proper manner. I think that he seems to have good length and good size to him, and he can move pretty decently, but there's just something missing. And I think that if he continues to hone and work on those skills to maximize his tool set, then that may bode well for him. But that's going to start with just putting him in with the right guys. I think this Jonathan Rice type fight probably did him some justice in the sense that he had to really take the lead in this. And Rice, of course, is pretty skilled. He's a veteran of the sport. He has some wrinkles to his game. And I think this is a good sort of test for him, a step up test for him, I guess you can say. And it's all a matter of what he continues to do from here moving forward as it pertains to whether or not we're going to be able to take him serious as a player in the heavyweight division,
Yeah, of course, this was rather unlucky for Vianello, but that sometimes these things are maybe meant to happen because had he progressed too soon, too fast after this, then he would have probably been smashed, as I said, by a top heavyweight. So, yeah.
Yeah, in all likelihood, and as we know, it will be tough sledding from there because it won't get any easier for him. So that's probably that card also features some other young up and coming fighters like Shushu Carrington, Brian Norman Jr. He's an excellent fight with Syria on the card.
I think I saw that guy there was a video of the best knockouts of last year, and Shushu was among them, or maybe two of his, maybe even.
I'm pretty sure he was on there. Yeah, he had a pretty good showing. I think he's now like 6-0. This was, I believe, his sixth fight. So, and I didn't actually see that fight. I came in on the Brian Norman fight. Brian Norman Jr., I think is his name, and and
Mm,
he had to rally and put on a good performance there at the tail end of his fight. And I believe he scored a knockdown there at the tail end, or at least he was landing some huge shots. He ended up winning on the cards. And then there were some others like Heaven Brady Jr., who I know has a lot of backing. He was able to win his fight decision pretty. He was in full control the entire time, but he came in overweight by 3 pounds. So that's not a good thing in terms of when you're starting out your career and you're coming in overweight. And apparently, this is his second time doing so, coming in overweight by 3 pounds, which
right.
that's something you definitely have to button up. Him and his
Mm.
team will have to button that up
You
because
also had. I watched. I actually wasn't aware. The grandson of Muhammad Ali, Nico
oh,
Walsh. He
Nico
was.
Aliwa, so he fought on this card.
Yeah. Oh no, actually not. But
Oh,
he was one of his KOs where made that video. The list of
oh, okay, okay,
against
gotcha.
Ibarra. Yeah, Alejandro
Oh
Ibarra.
yeah, Nico Aliwa. Yeah, they're top rank is pushing him. Definitely, it's the name for sure.
Yeah.
But he still has a lot of things to work on. But I will say that he has looked better, even though it's against lower competition. For what it's worth, he has looked better each time that I've seen him out. So that speaks well of him. I guess in
Mm.
that sense, it's a lot like Campbell Hatton, who
Yeah.
coming in there
hope
with a lot of lower tier guys.
I hope he is better than Campbell. Even though
You know,
maybe Campbell has kind of, I watched his last. I believe that was his last fight so far. He
yeah,
didn't look so bad, and in his first couple fights, he was, very like uncoordinated, that just going
yeah,
forward and missing a lot and getting hit, and so,
yeah.
but now it seems like he has kind of gotten into it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think Wash looks a little bit more fundamentally polished because, of
Yeah.
course, Hatton has a style similar to his dad's in some sense,
Mm.
though not exactly the same in that same in look and everything. But he does tend to, as expected, kind of. He's gonna be more one of those guys that leans towards the Ricky Hatton book, who's gonna be an
Yes.
offensive fighter coming forward and do a lot of work on the inside. Uh,
Speaking of, yeah, second generation, I've also been kind of reading something about the sons of Kostya too. Not just Tim, there's also
yeah.
Nikita,
Oh
who
yeah, I heard about
yeah, I mean, these guys are pushing, let's see which one. I don't know who promotes them, but anyway,
Yeah, I'm not
yeah,
sure.
they are pushing. Of course, there will be a fight. It seems, well, it was postponed, yeah,
Yeah, we
Charlo.
postponed him and Jamal Charlo.
Yeah,
Uh, I know it's going to
Jermel.
be, yeah, I think this coming up might have been February or something of that nature, but
Mm. But
yeah,
yeah, I
definitely push
mean,
back.
yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen this guy Nikita yet, but he looks taller than his brother. He looks
Yeah, I don't
bigger.
know that I've seen him either. I don't think I have actually.
But it was very cool. Did I tell you about it? I mean, I don't think so. I was watching this kind of video clip where I believe it was Nikita with his grandfather, the father of Kostya, who was showing him the secrets how they actually this kind of family secret how they make the knuckles harder because they say the father of Kostya was obviously in his corner, when he was fighting. He
Yeah.
said when he won, I guess that was when he won the IBF title from Jake Rodriguez.
Okay.
His knuckles were really bad, and his whole fists were very swollen. They swell up badly. So after that, they kind of introduced his father introduced this method where he punches this kind of rubber padding. I don't know what it's called, or actually not padding, but something similar,
Yeah.
and then he puts the hands in the ice water and stuff like that. So it's
Oh yeah.
pretty. it's not easy to explain, but it was very fascinating for me to
Oh
see
yeah,
that because this guy, Father Kostya, is a really this looks like this kind of Mr. Miyagi type. He's like Asian, Mongol and Korean.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. That's
and
pretty cool.
they know a lot about this, right? About this
Yeah,
stuff usually about yeah.
yeah. And Costa Zoo could punch, so that's pretty good.
Could
That'd be
he?
interesting. That'd
Could
be
he?
interesting. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
without a doubt. Just thinking about that, just kind of getting those knuckles ready by prepping them and then putting them in the ice bath. I guess that would kind of slow down the swelling and kind of help with the healing properties. Similar to, I guess, when some do intense workouts, they do a full body ice bath for like how many ever minutes
Oh
or whatever
yeah.
they do.
That can be too comfortable.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, you have to really, I would imagine, prep yourself for
Oh,
jumping in the mix there. But hey, supposedly it works wonders.
yeah, no joke. Yeah, it does. I've heard of it, but I don't know if I would be able to survive that.
Yeah, definitely would send a shock through your body for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I see
but
the butcher Nikita Zoo. They call him the butcher. So he's 4-0 right now, and he fought in October of last year. So
hmm.
interesting.
Because Nikita is a Russian name, while Tim is not. So they had
Yeah,
to name one son. Like, yeah.
yeah. I'm gonna have to check him out. I'm gonna have to look for some videos on him, see how he looks or whatever. And of course, I'd
Is
imagine he's
there
gonna be on that
another?
card. He'll likely
Yeah.
be on that card once it's rescheduled. I assume between
Hmm.
Zoo and Charlo. So interesting.
Yeah, Tim looks like he may be, going somewhere, and but it's too soon yet to know. I
Hmm.
mean, there people are really knocking him for going down against Terrell Gaucher, sorry, and that
Oh,
was like, oh, he was robbed by Gaucher, so he cannot really beat anybody good now.
yeah.
That's how people That's how they think, the average fight fan, I'm afraid,
Hey,
a
it
guy
happens.
gets, yeah, I mean,
Hey, anybody can be dropped.
yeah, of course, I
Yeah.
mean, look at all the great fighters who were like dropped by nobody. I mean, even Sugar Ray Leonard was like dropped by that guy, Dick Eklund,
Oh
in
yeah.
that movie.
Mickey Ward's brother or something like that.
Yeah, his half brother, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. That's funny.
So,
But yeah, I think hey Zoo, hey, we'll get to see him do his thing against Jamel Charlo, and I think that would be an excellent matchup. And
yeah,
Charlo, he's shown that he's game undisputed there right now, so I'm sure he's gonna bring his A game.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, then Tim has actually shown that he does also have some of the same toughness that his father had,
Hmm.
and yeah, because he did get up and went on to win that last fight against Gaucher. So,
Hey, Facebook user says, "Shout out to all. Hey, thanks. We appreciate it. Thank you for
who are
dropping
you? Now tell us who you are. Now, come on.
and, it's funny, but yeah, yeah, we see the Facebook user, so definitely shout out. Appreciate you dropping in.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're here
we
talking
like
some boxing per use.
we appreciate your shout out.
We appreciate it without a doubt. There. Now, thinking about upcoming fights.
Oh, Vega, it's Vega. Hello, man. It's
Oh,
Alex,
it's the Vega Meister.
the
Salute, shout
man.
out to the Vega Meister. Check out, hey, go follow Big Fish Vega on YouTube. Big Fish Vega.
Yeah,
We're part of Fight Night Scores. Follow that channel, Fight Dash Score, or Fight Night Scores on YouTube. You do at Fight Night Scores or go fight-score.com. We do
very good
live
work.
scoring of boxing events that have taken place, some of the most controversial fights and some of the most or some of the classic fights, not just controversial, some that are just classics and some classic controversial fights. A mix of both, I guess you can say. So be sure to check it out. Big Fish Vega. Salute. We appreciate you dropping in, Vega.
There will always be enough of those controversial fights.
Yes, yes. Just given all the dynamics involved, whether it's the referee, the judging, the fighters themselves, the corners, etc., etc.
It's strange sometimes, what happens. I read about, Greg Hogan, him. Haugen, that's a Norwegian. By the way, it's a Norwegian last name, so it's originally Haugen. Anyway, it was on the defense of that IBF title he was holding back then, and then it was against this guy Santana or something. His name was, and he actually it ended like a technical decision, and officially it was Hogan who won, but then later on it turned out many years later that it was the other way around. But the result kept, it was kept, standing. That was crazy,
That's crazy,
yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I know that recently it's probably not a good look in that sense, but the WBC went and reversed Nelson's win over someone. I think he was an Australian fighter. Who was it? Was it Hagen? It wasn't Hagen.
No, he's from.
He's not him. But there was an
He's from Washington State, Washington, not your city.
But they went and reversed a Zuma Nelson decision.
Oh yeah, Jeff Fennick.
Okay, yeah. So recently the WBC issued some type of reversal. Kind of just WBC is always doing some stuff.
And a few guys. There was one guy in my group that was like, "Oh, what did they do that for?" He was like, "Rugby, that's silly." But I know. I mean, I've scored that fight long ago. I watched it, and I thought, "Come on, man, Fennec should have won." I gave him like 8 rounds. I remember that fight. It was kind of ridiculous, and it ended a draw, right? I believe originally. Yeah.
Interesting. I have to check it out. I haven't actually seen it.
The worst part was that if he had gotten that decision, he would have become a four weight champion.
Yeah. That's what someone was mentioning. Someone was mentioning in the comments on YouTube. They brought that up, and that WBC.
So that's right after that, it was a decline. He suddenly declined because in the rematch he was just taken apart by Azuma Nelson, and he was stopped in the 8th round. Yeah.
So Big Fish Vegas says that fight is on the list. He hasn't seen it either. So that'll be a good one to check out because that is pretty controversial.
Good one, really good one. I mean, I know Azuma was kind of making excuses about being sick before, but he was actually early on, maybe because early on he was looking sharp. He was fast and all that.
Yeah.
It was competitive, but then I remember the last maybe 4 or 5 rounds, Azuma was nowhere to be seen. It was all Fennec, there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got the draw. But some people said that could set a precedent, WBC going back to reverse a decision on their own, which I don't know.
It's a pity, that but that happens, of
that's
course.
a pretty controversial thing in itself there.
Yeah, I mean Azuma, he was also in another. I believe the first fight with Jesse James Leija was a draw, but at first it was pronounced that he won, Azuma that he won, but he didn't, of course. And then he lost to Leija. It was like,
Jesse James. Okay, I haven't seen the Leija fight.
Quite a big upset, because Leija, I don't know, like who was he at that time?
You had some of those, I guess. Pretty amazing.
He was quality, of course. Otherwise, he couldn't have beaten Nelson.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to do a video on or a discussion on some of the top upsets.
A shout out to Jesse James Leija, and he also put on a good fight against Costa too himself. If you can see that on YouTube, but Well, Kostya didn't look to be in a really good shape. I mean,
Oh yeah.
but he kind of, fortunately for him, he hit Lehan right on the ear, and he because of it he suffered like a perforated eardrum.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah, I'm
he
sure
had to
that
give it
sucked.
up. Yeah,
I'm sure that
that
sucked.
that must hurt, right?
Yeah.
Real
Yeah. So
bad.
I tell. I imagine he was probably bleeding from the ear, huh?
Yeah, so it was like stopped after 6 rounds, but Kostya wasn't really impressive in the fight. It was,
Well, he got the TKO. Huh?
yeah,
Yeah, that happens for sure. Yeah, there've been some pretty interesting fights. Like I recall because of that cut, I was chatting with someone. It may have been Rodolfo. That cut that Villanello got over his eye, but then brought up Vitaly Klitschko when he got cut against Lennox Lewis, and he might have
yeah.
been. I think he might have been winning. Yeah, he was winning probably on all the judges' scorecards, but
And
that cut
poor,
derailed him.
poor Vitaly, I remember him. I just had to laugh because in the way he was really emotional in that interview after
Yeah,
the fight. And to that extent, I mean, when the crowd started booing him, he was like very, oh, why are they booing like
like, what the
everybody?
heck? Like, shout out to Vitaly over there holding it down in war right now as the mayor of Kiev.
Great job, really doing a great job, man.
Yep, good stuff. Shout out to Hyphy that dropped in. Hyphy in the building. Appreciate you dropping in, buddy. Been a minute. Yeah, we're here just talking some boxing. Yeah, Boz, in that regard. So there's a showbox card next week. That should be pretty decent. But there's also
Mm,
a bigger name card, which is going to be Chris Eubank Jr. versus Liam
Manchester.
Jr. 12 rounds in the middleweight division over there in, as you mentioned, Manchester Arena. We kind of
Arena,
talked
yeah.
about this and sort of what the implications are. The fight could elevate one of them into some type of position,
Yeah.
some kind of title position or whatever it may be. And it's a
That
pretty
one,
solid matchup. What do you think?
yeah. That one is pretty, hard to predict actually because on one side, I mean, like a year ago, I would have picked Eubank Jr. No,
Yeah,
no doubt. I mean, because Leon was anyway still fighting at 154, but I guess he could have made 160 then also. But now, after that thing with Ben, having to lose a lot of weight and for nothing, he came back. I mean, he regained the weight, but I don't know how that will affect him. But I think if it doesn't really affect him, then I probably would pick Eubank to win. But I'm not really like having him as a clear favorite.
yeah, yeah. I'm
So
with you.
Liam Smith has looked good, of course, in his last 3 4 fights, and
Yeah, yeah,
he's got really, a great spirit, great motivation to win. And
yeah. I'm with you there. And looks like Chris Eubank will have been just shy of a year out of the ring because he last fought February 5th, 2022, when he beat Liam Williams.
yeah,
So long. It seems like that was so long
exactly.
ago, right? I guess it was.
Yeah,
Considering it's nearly nearly a year from there. So it'll be interesting to see how he looks because we do know that he was supposed to fight last year, Connor Ben, with that
mm,
being derailed instead of actually keeping up with the event,
that
which I feel
was
like they
such.
could have done. I mean, well, of course, it wouldn't have had the same pizzazz, but I'm sure they could have kept the event and elevated the co-main or something. But that being said, they chose to postpone it, so I don't think that fight's going to happen again, and it probably shouldn't
Yeah,
anyway. But so yeah, this will be his first time in nearly a year.
mm, that Ben travesty. It was such a bad. I mean, come on, Hearn was really. I mean, he
Yeah,
had
yeah,
no right to make that fight. Simple as that. So
yeah. As I mentioned, yeah, they had all the odds seemingly stacked against Eubank Jr.
yeah,
And it was the Connor Bean show for sure. So it was going to be interesting, I will say. Hyphy says Liam has been on a nice little run since the Canelo fight. Plus, Eubank isn't anything special. Hey, I agree. I do agree with you. Yeah, Liam has looked very good. Uh,
yeah, yes.
he's had some pretty solid contests since that
I
Canelo
mean,
loss.
He stopped Jesse Vargas. That's a pretty
Yeah,
good, a good name, if nothing. I mean, I know how prime Vargas was, but anyway, it was a big deal to No, I don't think Vargas has been stopped before ever.
yeah.
Actually,
I don't think he had been stopped. No, I don't
no,
think so.
I
Even
don't
with
think either
Pacquiao.
he has been. No, I don't think so. He
Yeah,
was a pretty big welterweight, so that's why he made it 154 easily.
yeah,
So
yeah. He was in there with Pacquiao, and Pacquiao didn't stop him. He was
no,
in there with
no,
Broner, of course, at a close
yeah.
fight. So
I favored Saddam Ali to stop him, but then what happens?
yeah,
Vargas stops Saddam Ali instead. It's like what? Come on,
yeah, yeah. That was yeah. I
a
recall that.
guy who like knocked out 7 guys, maybe previous to that, knocks knocks out Saddam Ali.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. And so yeah, and Vargas was in there with yeah. I remember with Mikey Garcia as well. He took some big shots in that
Oh
fight,
yeah,
and
Mike.
yeah,
Yeah,
Liam Smith was able to stop him, but Vargas hadn't fought since 2020, and he was seemingly 1 foot in, 1 foot out, kind of too, which isn't a plus. But it was a great win for Liam Smith because he broke him down systematically,
yeah. I
took over
mean,
that fight. But yeah,
when
as
you
Heidi
know,
said, yeah, Eubank Jr. I mean, he done work with Roy Jones and all of that stuff, so he looks good against a particular type of an opponent. But we still need to see him with a boxer who is not going to sort of fit the mold of his style per se. So
yeah.
maybe Liam Smith can be that because he can really box. We know Billy Joe Saunders gave trouble.
Yeah, that's right. I actually, even though I forgot, Smith is actually a year older than Eubank. Even though he has that boyish look, he looks younger
Yeah,
actually. But it's a young 34. Well, I would call Eubank not a young 33, really.
yeah, yeah,
Because he's been in there with some really big names already, and
yeah.
has lost a couple of times. And yeah, I mean. We'll see. We'll see
Yeah,
anyway.
his hair is generally in that 50-50 range. You can say Smith is the more active fighter at the moment, and I think that he's going to bring it because his form has been
Yeah,
good. If I would give Eubanks props if he's able to defeat uh, Liam Smith, this version of him, in some type of dramatic fashion. If he's able to stop him or something like that, then he would get
yeah.
props for sure. So yeah, this should be very interesting.
I mean, if anybody, I don't think Liam Smith can really knock out Eubank. No, it's well, there are small chances.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I think most likely this fight will go the distance. And a
yeah.
guy I talked to about this fight last night, who is from Before the Bell podcast, shout out to him.
Well, shout out to Before the Bell.
He said the same thing. He said that the fight most likely goes the distance, and I agree. But if anybody should kind of score a knockout or something, it most likely will be Eubank, I believe,
Yeah,
because
I agree with that. I agree with
yeah,
that as well. I do think that is the case. That in all likelihood will be a distance fight, and I think that bodes well for Liam's chances considering such. So it's really kind of
mm,
50-50, I guess you can say in some sense. I'm sure that the edge is going to be given to Eubank Jr. But that being said, yeah, it's definitely a sleeper bet type fight on the Liam side. If you were putting your betting money up or whatever, yeah, I would definitely go Liam because we have to see what Eubank Jr. is going to look like when he's actually in there, and I do think it'll go
yeah,
the distance as well. And if it does, yeah, that as mentioned, that kind of boosts the chances of
yeah.
Smith pulling out a victory.
Yeah, Liam, I would say is a more popular fighter in the UK right now. I
Yeah,
mean, because Eubank used to be, I guess very popular, but then he kind of wasted that away,
yeah.
and
After that, Billy Joe Saunders lost, then it kind of
yeah,
some of the momentum and steam kind of went out of it. Kind of
yeah. I remember that fight very well because he didn't really bring it from the start. He just let Saunders dictate too much in the first. like 6 or 7 rounds, and
Mm-hmm.
then he did kind of come back, but it was too late. He
Yeah,
turned it off too late in that fight.
yeah. I'm
Yeah,
looking at his wins or looking at his record right now. And just even looking through it, he has some pretty good names, but there's still, in my opinion, no standout performance or anything. To be honest with you, he had a cool knockout over that one dude that was knocked out by Canelo as well. Yildirim, I think it is.
Yildirim, yeah, that was his only, I think,
Yeah.
one punch knockout that I know of anyway.
Yeah, outside of that, I mean, that has been like his highlight moment as far as I'm concerned,
Mm,
is that knockout. I haven't really seen any complete performance
yeah.
against a top level guy that thinks he say, okay, yeah, Eubanks Jr., he's that guy. Like, I don't view him as like, okay, he's about to unify, become undisputed at 160 or anything of that nature. I think he's solid, of course, but you know,
Mm. He,
it's
he
interesting.
beat a very static Arthur Abraham. I saw that fight too. It was very one-sided. Abraham did nothing but kind
Oh
of
yeah,
hold hands up and stuff. I mean his
yeah,
guard. Yeah.
yeah, certainly. Freaking Arthur Abraham. But yeah, and then Hyphy mentions he plus Callum did beat him a few
I
years
don't
ago.
know who you mean. Callum didn't fight Eubank ever.
Let me see. Eubank pulling out of the Triple G fight after telling the fans he was going to sign the contract really damaged his rep. Grits don't take him serious.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah,
I
I guess
forgot
I
about
forgot
that.
about that.
Yeah, me
I
too.
remember there were some discussions about them fighting, and it was like, okay, yeah, but I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was right. Huh, I also thought I don't can remember that either. No,
Mm,
that's weird. Well, I remember there were some kind of talks about them fighting, but I didn't know that they were, Yeah, but he hadn't signed anything. That's right. It was just talk.
yeah,
Yeah,
I see. Yeah, he beat the leftovers of James DeGale.
yeah. It's
So
kind of
he,
like David Hay was talking. Oh, he's gonna knock out both Klitschko's and who is that? Oh, Fury, right? And then he withdraws from the Fury fight and kind of goes on to knock out some nobodies like
yeah,
leftovers and also
yeah.
Ollie
So
Harrison.
yeah, David. Hey, yeah, I remember we were discussing him, but yeah, interesting guy right there. Interesting person.
Early on, yeah, I think he showed a lot of promise. And I was like, really intrigued. Like, let's see what
Hmm.
this guy can do. Maybe he can beat Vladimir and
Hmm.
bring some more excitement into the division. Because back then, it was very like
Yeah.
stifled or in a chokehold by the Klitschko's. So, but no,
Okay.
no way. He just failed badly, in his task.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, I remember him. I'm just gonna continue the same job that Lennox Lewis started, stuff like that.
Hyphy says Eddie released Eubank after Eubank backed out of the Triple G fight last minute. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, that would have been
Got cold
of course, his
feet. That's
biggest
how.
fight. That would have been his biggest fight. That would have been the biggest of his career,
Hmm,
and it would have been stylistically Triple G would have brought it, so he would have had a chance to
yeah,
show if his knockout power is truly real.
yeah. I think most likely. I don't know when that was supposed to be. Maybe 2016 or 17. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe somewhere around there. But yeah,
I
he would
think
have gotten.
he would have. Eubank would have most likely gotten a beat down. That's what I
Yeah,
think.
it would have been a top level version of Triple G for sure.
Yeah.
But
I
hey,
mean, I can see him winning. Maybe he would want like 3 round stops, and then he would just get beaten up, and maybe even stopped. Who knows?
it would have
Yeah,
been an opportunity for him. He could have.
yeah,
He could have been the first to derail the Triple G throne.
yeah. I mean, look at Cambosos. I mean, the guy just comes out of nowhere and fights like Selby and
Oh yeah,
of course Teofimo and who else? There was one more. Oh, wait, no, sorry.
now, I don't even like Lee Selby like that, but I thought
Yeah,
Lee Selby beat Cambosos.
He was very good. I mean, a very good boxer, smooth like technician. But
Yeah, he didn't. I didn't like Till because sometimes it just seemed like he didn't want to take chances. He was just fine with
that's
kind of
right. Yeah, that's
pushing
true.
his way through a fight.
And early on, he did score some good knockouts, but then he just stopped. I don't know what happened. So I was like, doesn't his trainer know how to, teach him to sit on his punches? Like something is wrong here.
Yeah, he was content with just kind of coasting, in my opinion.
Just
But that being said, I thought he beat George Kambosos in that first fight. I know I'm not the only one.
very
We
close.
may be
Yeah,
the
it was.
minority, of course, but I thought Shelby won that fight.
I didn't see actually the whole fight. I believe because there was some. I was watching it through a stream, and there were some problems and stuff. But I did
Hmm.
catch like the last third maybe or a quarter of the fight, something like that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
know that kind of Cambosos came on really like in the last half of the fight, I think.
yeah. And yeah, he come forward offensively, but
Hmm.
yeah, and it helped boost Kambosos, and we know that he went on to be a
Yeah.
world champion for a brief
He
period.
exposed he exposed Teofimo, really. I mean, if
Yeah,
anything, everybody was like, "Oh yeah, Teofimo is now the man," but no, I mean, he's not a boxer, really. I mean, that's the problem. He is
yeah.
not good enough as
Yeah,
a
that
technique.
pressure he applied in that fight with Tiafimo, yeah, that definitely was one that
Yeah, this
him,
the defensive issues, I believe, mostly he has Teofimo. Yeah.
yeah, Tiafimo, he will be an interesting case, interesting case study in terms of how his career finishes out. I
Mm.
showed you the clip. I sent you the clip of him kind of questioning himself after this fight against the Spanish guy, over the guy from Spain.
Oh,
What is his
yeah,
name? Martin.
Sandor
Martin.
Martin. Sandor Martin.
So yeah, they caught hot Mike style Tiafimo questioning himself and questioning whether he still has it after that fight with Martini. And I think he could question such based on his hype or whatever. But I would say that Cedor Martin, he's one of those guys who can box. He's probably a B level
Mm,
fighter, but he can box and on any given day. Give you a seemingly tough fight because he can move pretty decently, and
yeah,
he's more instinctive on the defensive side. I would say more one of those type of guys. So he's going to be very aware defensively. And Tiafimo, of course, couldn't go out there and blast him like he has done some opponents. So maybe that's why he's questioning himself. But I think that he's going to have to try and shift from that mentality because, yes, he caught Richard Comey coming in and hurt him with something huge and ended that fight. But uh, Richard Comey came in a bit recklessly
yeah.
himself. So Tiafimo,
It
he's
was,
gonna have to get back to those boxing basics.
yeah, it was just a matter of
Yeah,
him, getting caught. That's all. Comey was, just unlucky, maybe you can say, or had a bad timing. So
yeah,
it happens, of course. But
yeah.
first thing I would say, I mean, what I would say to Teofimo, get rid of of your
Oh
father
yeah,
first, because we know how it happened. It never works well,
yeah,
almost never. Well, and his father is obviously, as they say in Britain, a muppet. He is not helping, and he is talking a lot of shit and stuff.
yeah.
And
He
I
can
don't
only
like
give him
that.
that emotional charge. He doesn't give him any like real instructions.
Yeah, and also that happens. I mean, almost all of them fathers are the same when it comes to that. When I saw that Tank Davis versus Rolly Romero
Oh yeah,
fight, and they were showing that knockout in slow motions, and they showed his father in the audience doing going like this to the referee. He was like, "No, no, don't stop the fight." And the
yeah.
guy
I
was
didn't
like,
catch
"Oh."
that.
He
That's
was
funny.
in here.
I didn't catch that. I'll have to see if I can catch that.
Yeah. I was like, what? You
Like
want
you're
your
not his
son to
ring
get
girl.
totally, blasted, I mean, brain damage? Or
Yeah, like come on. Come on, what the heck? Shout out to Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz, and more. Salute, boys. That's what he says. Salute right back at you, Bruce.
Hey man,
Appreciate
how
having
are
you
you?
here, buddy. If you're listening, watching right now, go subscribe. Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz, and more. You shall be entertained. We appreciate you dropping in, Bruce, without a doubt.
Yeah,
But yeah, that is
great to have
pretty
you
crazy
here.
stuff right there. But yeah, maybe
Yeah,
more
that
people
was
can get
like, oh no, my boy can take more. No, no, don't stop. I know my boy. That was like something
yeah.
surreal, almost.
Now, on this same undercard with this Eubank Jr. Liam Smith, we have Usman versus Congo welterweight contest. Two guys who are
Right.
pretty decent boxers overall. Usman's coming off a win over Antwi. I remember watching that one. Congo, I forget who beat Congo. Was it the guy who lost to
Usman.
Alam Canelli or
That
no?
sounds like a Boston word, which means like
Chris
oral
Congo.
or verbal. Usman.
Usman. Let me see. Someone derailed Chris Congo's little streak as he was on the rise. I'm trying to see who it
Yeah.
was. As a matter of
I
fact,
really don't know either of those guys. I must admit, I'm afraid.
they're UK fighters right now. They kind of been at that domestic level, I guess you can say.
Hmm.
Congo, he lost to Michael McKinnison, the guy that who lost to
Yeah,
Ortiz in his last fight.
yeah, I heard of. Yeah, that's the guy, Mike Kingston.
Yeah, yeah. So he lost to him. He beat Sebastian Formella in his last fight, and now
Yeah,
he's taking on
Formella is just. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah German sort of. He's
Yeah,
like a B-level fighter, of course, not a
he's a paper tiger,
yeah C plus B-level fighter, I guess you can say.
Yeah, that's like pretty much like that. What was the name of the heavyweight? He also actually fought Vladimir. That was like bullshit fight because that guy was never so good. He also had an Italian last name, I believe, but I can't recall it.
He fought
Doesn't matter.
Wilder, you said?
Hmm?
Who did you say he fought?
Vladimir
Oh,
Klitschko.
Vladimir. Oh, okay. And
I'm gonna have to seek him here because I cannot remember the name. I know he was a big guy. I mean, well, he was like 6'5" or something, but he
where's
was
he from?
really slow. Hmm?
Where's he from?
He is like from Germany, but I think he had
Oh,
like an Italian last name,
not
something.
Christian Hammer, is it?
No, it's Pianetta. That's right, Francesco Pianetta. He
Okay.
was born in Italy, but he lived in Germany. That's right. A
Okay.
big guy, but not really just a big oak. No, no real skill or
Yeah, you
anything.
get some of that. Some of these cats still rack up a number of knockouts
Yeah.
over some guys where they are in the same venue, and then
Mm.
ultimately they get to that big stage and in for a rude
Ruslan.
awakening.
Actually, Pianetta was later knocked out by Ruslan Shagayev in one round.
Wow,
A
Ruslan.
small heavyweight. Yeah.
So I guess Vladimir got him at his best and ended him, and then Chagaya finished him off.
Yeah. Yeah, Vladimir really trashed him, but it was in 6 rounds he beat him. Yeah.
Yeah, which is I guess kind of on par with Vladimir at times. He doesn't
Yeah.
rush in. Kind of takes his time. I guess you could say.
Mm.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
he didn't. That's, he didn't have many opponents that were really, kind of on his level or anywhere near in that in that last reign of his, which
yeah,
was really long, 9 years.
yeah. Hey,
Beat
he held
Chris Bird. Yeah, that's all. That's pretty much all. He beat Chris Bird
it
to
down.
win that title.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I want to mention on that card we do have Richard Riatpor, who I know
Yeah,
you've seen him a number of times, versus Christoph Govacki, the former world cruiserweight champion. This is a cruiserweight fight for those listening. Of course,
yeah, it's like a
Riatpor, he seems to be the guy who has
step up
next.
for, yeah,
Richard Riatpor seems to have next between him and Opataya, some of this young crop coming up, Lawrence Okoli. He's in the
yeah,
mix there with them. So Christoph Gavaski that'll be a good test for him as far as sort of that step up fight. Kovacsky has been a world champion. He's
Yeah,
certainly probably not what he used to be, but we'll see what he
tough
has left.
guy. Yeah, but yeah, he's kind of faded. Really, he is faded.
Yeah, he
He's,
is. So yeah, we'll see what he has left in the tank. And if Richard Reactor is that guy, then he's probably going to get Kovacsky out there somewhere midway through.
yeah, I think so. He should anyway, and I think it's the Glowacki is not. He's also a lot shorter. He's 6 feet tall,
Hmm.
and he's never was really a one punch guy either. He's not a devastating puncher, just all right when it comes to that. So that's why that makes his whole assignment even tougher, and
Yeah,
Ryakpour has actually knocked out most of his opponents, but this is so far his best opponent actually.
yeah.
So yeah, I'd kind of expect Ryakpour to win by stoppage anyway. I don't know, somewhere 6, 7, 8 round maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, Glowacki was knocked out by Okoli in 6 rounds. So
oh yeah. That is true. That is true.
yeah,
Yeah, that was a good fight for as long as it lasted, at least. And yeah, you're right. He did get knocked out by him. He also got knocked out by Maris Breedis in a crazy
yeah, that
fight.
was
It was a crazy
that. Yeah,
fight.
very controversial. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
definitely one to watch if you haven't seen Christopher Lovatsky against Marius Breedis. It'll throw you for a loop for sure.
But it seems like his punch resistance has gone down because the way he was knocked out by Okoli. I mean, no way Okoli hits that hard. I mean, that he can just, with one punch, boom.
Yeah, I think that
Oh,
is the case. That's why I say if Reactor is the next guy on that trajectory, he should be able to
right.
take him out of there.
Yeah, it might not even last 6 rounds. Who knows? Maybe three,
Yeah,
4 rounds.
I'm thinking, yeah, by the sixth round, it should be over at the
Yeah,
very
definitely.
least. Yeah, I don't see it going all the way. This is Reactor's chance to kind of make a statement right here
Hmm.
on
I mean,
what will be a pretty decent card. I'm sure there will be a decent amount of fanfare there. Some
yeah,
who've seen him, some who probably haven't seen him. And then there will, of course, be some audiences watching who haven't seen him. Like I haven't seen him fight. I know of him, but I haven't just watched Richard Reactor fight. So I'm sure he's going to want to make a statement, and this is his opportunity
hmm.
to do it in a major way right here.
Yeah, and after that, I guess he will probably get to fight Okoli himself. I hope so. As I
Yeah,
said, that would be the best cruiserweight fight in UK and Europe also,
yeah.
probably.
Maybe that's
Yeah,
what they're building up, right? I know you've mentioned that in the past. So I guess if he looks
yeah,
good against Glovatsky, then that would line things up. But I did hear something. I don't know if it was on one of these YouTube channels or somewhere. Someone mentioning that Lawrence Okoli and Eddie Hearn had some issues
hmm. Wow, really?
promotionally. That's what they were trying to. It seemed
A big surprise.
yeah, I don't know, but someone mentioned that. I don't know if it's true or what. They mentioned that it seemed to be a promotional type of money type issue, but I don't know. I was
Maybe.
wondering if you had heard anything.
What's, yeah, did I tell you that Alan Babbage also broke with his trainer actually recently?
Okay, that's probably not a bad move.
Yeah, I mean, it's that guy also trained Hergovich before, and that's why one of the
Mm,
reasons why they don't like each other, Hergovich and Babbage. But I don't know really now what's happened. Maybe Eddie or either Eddie or Dillian pulled some strings. They weren't happy with his trainer Leonard. His name is Leonard. His trainer.
I remember you mentioning
Kietai.
this before
Yeah.
about him having some ties to Hergovich, but maybe this is a good thing for Babbage in terms of
I don't know really. I mean, his
his.
trainer. He said I watched an interview where he said that he actually worked for Don King for 5 years before.
Oh yeah,
So yeah, in America. So, but I mean, maybe I don't know. As far as I could understand, Babbage said that he was being too strict with him, something like that,
Hey,
and
sometimes you need that.
yeah, sometimes you
Especially
need
in
that,
school.
and I don't know if this is is a good move or bad. Until of course time will show that.
Yeah, I thought it would be for more so purposes in terms of switching his style up to be less aggressive or something, but
Mm.
maybe not.
By the way, just wanted to show this a really nice clubbing fragrance that I got here. Ralph's Club. Check it
Learn.
out.
All right, that's good stuff. Good stuff without
Yeah,
a doubt. That's definitely worthy of checking out. I like the
it's
bottle.
like you see this. This is how it opens, like a lighter.
Oh, that's additional. Or like yeah, it's almost like a little flask, right?
Yeah, flask.
Trickle
That's
something
right.
in there. Let's keep it with you. All right, that's pretty dope. Shout out to
Mm,
Ralph, holding it
Ralph.
down. Yeah,
Ralph makes good stuff, or his people. I mean.
yeah, without a doubt. That's good though. So hey, I was looking up this thing. Apparently, uh, yeah, Okolie does have a contract dispute with Eddie Herman Matchroom. Eddie Herman Matchroom. I'm looking at the quote. It says our contract come to
Yeah.
an end. You either pay me or I move on. Lawrence Okolie.
Then he will probably, I don't know, if he doesn't go to America, he will then have to go to Frank Warren. There is no third guy, in UK, just her and Warren. So, yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much. There's also Barry McGuigan. I don't think many want to sign with him. Well, anyway, I know that
mm.
Carl Frampton left him, so yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, that is pretty interesting.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
and we still
might
haven't
look at
gotten to that fight, which is actually in the, how do you say, in the title of this podcast.
Oh yeah, which
Tank,
one is that?
Tank versus King Ryan.
Oh yeah. Let's just jump straight to it. Tank versus King Ride. So yeah, that's been one in the talks. Of course, Tank Davis got that victory. King Rye, old Ryan Garcia, he was supposed to fight someone. Then he said, "No, I'm not gonna do it because we're gonna focus on this Tank fight." And then on the weekend of the Tank fight, Oscar De La Hoya released a tweet of him on video saying, "Hey, this fight is happening April 17th. We're just waiting for them to sign the contract or whatever, or send the
Mm,
contract, whatever it is." And then in recent days, Oscar De La Hoya has also tweeted that they have until Monday to sign this contract or whatever, send the contract. Otherwise, they're moving on. So now
mm,
it's all clufuffle. I think that's
mm.
clufuffle or something of that nature. So I don't know where we stand as far as that fight. If they had a Monday deadline, he just said Monday, which is today here on Martin Luther King Day, which in all likelihood they're not going to be sending a contract over today. So
No.
if nothing is sent on Monday, then they're moving on. Moving on to whom? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know really. You never know with Ryan Garcia. He's a pretty yeah.
Yeah,
How do you say it?
erratic.
He's full of surprises. To put it that
Man,
way.
I want to give Ryan the benefit of the doubt, but come on, man. Demand
Yeah,
this
you
fight from Oscar.
you better get your ass and working to make a fight.
Yeah, I
Don't.
have been legitimately giving Ryan this the benefit of the doubt. I'm thinking to myself, he wants this fight, so they're gonna make it happen. I don't know
Well,
what's the deal with this whole deadline thing, though.
yeah, I know. His last knockout. It was a really good victory over
Yeah,
a really good fighter, even though maybe not that. No, he wasn't on his peak. But anyway,
he broke him down.
Fortuna, Fortuna was really,
Yep,
man.
Fortuna. I was about to. I'm glad I didn't
Yeah,
say Pandora, but yeah, Fortuna.
he's a he's also very like the always was offensive fighter, a puncher, and that makes it even more impressive, I guess. So that was a great knockout. So I hope he can continue and build on that, and then of course the
Yeah.
Tank fight is guaranteed, of course. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Tank. Yeah, you're right. Garcia looked good in that last matchup. He really
mm,
broke down Fortuna, mixed in a lot of good work. I think it was a body shot there at the end that got him out of there, and he
mm,
showed that man Garcia. He's very talented, and of course he was a great amateur, a very good amateur as well. So he has the skill set. Same with Tank. We know he can punch. We know he can box.
mm,
And the just stylistic clash makes it one of great interest, and all the stars were seemingly going to align. Of course, Tank was able to make fairly short work of Hector Garcia, and despite him having this little bruise or whatever on his cheek, he didn't really take any damage in that fight. So everything seemed to be lining up well, but they said April
yeah,
17th. But I guess the issue with this boxing stuff is sometimes a lot of dates and stuff are thrown out there, but they don't even actually have the contract signed. So we can't take anything. I guess we have to take
yeah.
everything with a grain of salt unless they actually have a signed contract. Otherwise, they're just throwing stuff out there.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of that, a lot of, if and when, and we don't want that, of course, to happen. And so a lot of chasing, and then in the end, just falls through. And
Thinking about Golden Boy, this is probably the biggest fight they can make right now. Garcia versus Tank. Of course,
mm,
that's the biggest fight for Tank right now in terms of just the interest that will come with it. It's just such an interesting stylistic clash and personality clash. All that stuff is just so interesting that I think it's one of the bigger fights that can be made. Certainly, probably one of the five biggest in the sport. And I'm not just looking from the bricks and
forgot to put it on.
gotcha. Yeah, and I'm not just speaking stylistically, but in just interest that it will generate, probably the financials as well. I just think it's a big fight, so they should be doing what they need to do to make this fight happen because we certainly don't want to see another one of these, and dare I say it, knock on wood, Spence versus Crawford situations. And that's starting to
Yeah,
linger towards that territory.
and now you get to talk. I shared that article in both my group and yours about. Suddenly they're talking about that fight being maybe 154. It was like what, Crawford, and why? Then why? What's the point if it's not going to be a great unification?
There's
Come
no
on, man.
Yeah, it makes no freaking sense. It makes no sense at all. Like, why would it be at 154 when neither has a belt at 154, and the winner would have been the undisputed champion at 147? So yeah, it makes
Yeah,
sense to go to 154 with no belt.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
boxing
kind of
is
weird.
crazy
Yeah.
at times. Boxing is freaking crazy.
Makes you scratch your
I know we're
head.
getting this Keith Thurman. Oh yeah, I guess since we last talked, Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence, that seems to be the move. They're trying to make it. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
official or what, seemingly, but it's going to be Errol Spence moving up to 154 to take on Keith Thurman in a non-title fight because
Yeah.
there are no titles available at 154. So naturally, it is
So
a
Turner,
non-title fight.
Turner is a 154 now, right? Huh.
Yeah. So
Because he did start. I mean, he did fight there before, like way before, 10 years ago. Yeah,
mm,
but
yeah,
he
I,
chose.
yeah, I've heard some
Yeah,
opinions on this whole thing, and I'm in the neighborhood of yeah, I think it is a fight that doesn't make sense at least for the grand scheme of things, because of the fact that, of course, Thurman he hasn't he doesn't have a belt or anything, and
no,
it's
no,
not like there's no one left in the division for Errol Spence to fight at 147. Dong, ding dong. I mean, we do have a major fight for him there. Yet we're going to 154 for this one-off fight that doesn't really make sense outside
no.
of you, yeah,
Maybe I don't know. Maybe he has problems making 147. I don't know.
I think that might be the case in terms of
Yeah,
in some instances, but he's been able to do it. I
yeah.
don't think
It's
it's
not a small welterweight anyway, for sure. Physically, yeah. He
Yeah,
can't fight at 154. And even though you got now guys like Fundora there, who are,
but the thing is, he's not vacating the belts.
yeah,
So that
right.
makes it more interesting as well. So I think that yeah, he can make 154 for. I mean, he can make 147 for the biggest fight of his career, which would be against Crawford. I mean, because he's not vacating the belts, so they're just fighting there. Of course, he won't have to drop those extra pounds, but still, it doesn't make sense in relation to
Hmm.
what
Those
career
fights,
holds.
yeah, we all want to see those fights, of course, happen. And I don't know, before this, I was talking about how good it would be to have a fight between Stanionis and what's his name, the guy that
Virgil
just got
Ortiz.
knocked out, Alanisian, yeah.
Oh,
But
Avenue.
yeah, now I say it. Yeah, probably Virgil Ortiz or somebody else.
Yeah,
Instead.
so that's going to be an excellent matchup. Virgil Ortiz versus Emmanuel Stanionis. Now, Stanionis had to get an emergency appendectomy. His
Oh,
appendix, I guess, burst or whatever, and
hmm.
so the fight
No,
had to be
but
postponed for a little bit.
that usually doesn't take so long to
Yeah.
recuperate.
So yeah, I don't think they've come with an official date yet, but it's likely going to push it about 3 or 4 weeks out or something of that nature. Maybe somewhere around that. But
That's
yeah,
even worse when fights get postponed because of something medical happens, an emergency.
yeah.
Then
So
there was no other choice, of course.
yeah. You know, when you had that issue, I heard that. Yeah, I remember going through studies as a child. Yeah, they said when that happens, you gotta immediately have that surgery or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Hopefully, I
and
haven't run into it.
sometimes, yeah, it takes kind of like months for a fighter before he gets cleared to fight again. All that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, that is going to be a good fight though when him and Virgil Ortiz taking on each other because both of these guys can take a punch. They can throw a punch, and yeah,
Yeah,
Ortiz is battle tested as he's kind of raised the competition for the most part uh, throughout his career thus far, and for Stanionis, yeah, he's looked good, and that fight against Batayev, I thought he showed me that yeah, he's the real deal because Batayev is no slouch. So I
yeah.
think this makes for an excellent fight with two guys who seem to be pretty independent. So
So
hopefully,
now, hang on, he actually holds the WBA title now, Staniol. So that's like the regular version, right?
mm, what does
That's
that
what he
mean?
won against Butaev, exactly.
What does regular mean? You know,
It's
I
like
don't know. You know,
not super title, but
but what
they
does
got
super
this.
mean?
Yeah, they got this nonsense WBA.
Do they have a super duper?
Yeah,
Mhm.
super sized champion or whatever you call it. Super.
Yeah,
Yeah,
these sanctioning bodies they like to make up the rules as they go.
yeah. It's
Mhm.
kind of a lot of It's all because of the glitz and the glam that they introduced that super champion. Like so.
Yeah, crazy. Hey, I'm seeing here, Bermain Steverns are going to be in action next weekend as well.
Who?
Bermain Stevern,
Oh
former
yeah. Oh no, he's still
WBC
fighting.
world champion.
Oh
No,
no.
he's taking on a Jonathan Guidry.
Oh
Guidry.
yeah, that's right. Now I remember. I saw that today
18.
earlier.
Oh, have I seen Guidry? No, he's 18-1.
And Joseph Parker is coming back, but against the
Oh yeah,
former cruiserweight. So
yeah. This is sort of a kind of bounce back fight for Parker. He's a showcase fight. I imagine. I think he's expected to win after having to go through the juggernaut. So this is going to be a softer touch from all indications. So we'll see how it goes.
am I gonna disappear?
Yeah,
Help!
I
I'm
guess
lost in the matrix.
you go back
Yeah,
far enough to believe so. But
yeah,
cool. So yeah, that's kind of what's in store. Still no, yeah, we had the tank fight, so That was probably the biggest name fight that was out there. Then things are gonna pick up a little bit more from there as we get more into February. There's some pretty decent matchups lined up as well that I'm sure we'll be able to cover and discuss. And oh yeah,
Yeah,
one of them that was
usually,
announced, of course.
February is usually the first big boxing month.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So certainly more to come, but yeah, we've been about an hour and a half in, a little bit over an
Yeah.
hour and a half in. I guess we can call it a good start.
Yeah, we can,
Good
of
start to
course.
2023. A good starting stopping point.
Wo- Working hard.
This right here is a rubber band ball.
Oh, all right.
We started from a
Cool.
single rubber band.
Oh, nice. Takes a lot of work, patience.
Salute, sliding counter. Appreciate you dropping by, buddy. Appreciate you dropping in. Yeah, we were just getting ready to wrap it up, but certainly
Yeah.
we'll be back in the mix. Well, I won't be in the mix next week, but Boz will be in the mix next week. But thereafter,
Yeah.
you can catch me back in the mix there as we keep this thing popping off. But yeah, good stuff. We appreciate everyone that dropped in. Big Fish Vega, sliding counter. Salute to sliding counter. Be sure to give them a holler. Hyphy came through. We had my mom come through. Thank you, mother. The Real Ranger Danger.
Thanks.
Be sure to check out the Real Ranger Danger. But yeah, outside of that, the Boxing Haven. Be sure to follow Boz. You'll see his info. We'll be back in this thing. So enjoy. Salute on me at MLK Day. Enjoy the rest of the day.
See you.